you're operating live 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, on different mediums. You're running a lot of different things there. So I have to admit, and your questions have been amazing and without hesitation, and it's a question that sort of takes me to the next level of thought. So if anyone watching, I have to sort of bow to you, TJ, on this, and that
Well,
you've done
thanks.
an amazing job. Yeah, you've done an amazing job of asking great questions in the moment, while still being very present and building on that. And I'm impressed with that. Not even realizing all the different cameras and the mixer boards and stuff that you got going on. Um,
Mhm.
when I do a podcast, I don't do it live. So that's number one. So I'm not dealing, and I did do something on Voice America that was live, but it wasn't on camera. So it was just audio.
Mhm.
So with that, I'm able to cheat. And how I cheated
Mhm.
when we're doing live off camera was I could take notes as I'm listening. So
Mhm.
I could circle back to what someone had just said. Hey, you mentioned this, so that I could really just sort of listen as I'm doing that.
Mhm.
That also said, it's something I did early on because I'm not as maybe I'm not as young as I seem, but when I started, it was a lot of it was on the telephone. There was no video. There was a lot of telephone coaching, and so I got into the habit of taking notes while I was coaching someone when we were doing it on the telephone, and
Oh, I
that
remember those days.
helped my.
I would record them with a cassette and play it back. Is that what you did?
Okay. No, no, because they didn't have the technology for that to be able to do that. It was literally, a landline phone, and
Uh-huh.
didn't wasn't able to do that.
Mhm.
But the how it helped me feel better to be present was I got into this habit of really listening very carefully because I was taking notes. And then as you do that, you start picking up listening for just keywords. You start cheating and listening for just keywords, and you make a note, keyword there, and then it's in the back of your mind, and you could continue to be present.
Mhm. Great. Tell us more about your podcast. How long have you been doing it? Where all can people find it? What's the main value they get from listening to your podcast?
I've done two podcasts, and I'm bringing back the This Feels Right podcast. So I did This Feels Right podcast for a few years, and then I was working somewhere else, and I did something called the Great Canadian Leadership podcast. And then going back, now I'm going to go back to This Feels Right. The theme has always been the same: is that, and you said this earlier too. You're already a very strong communicator, but you're curious about what others are doing around communication, and a lot of that was also my same idea was around, um, you know, how did you motivate people? Because people want to know, or how are you able to influence them? Because it's at the heart of it's kind of what we want to do. And again, going back to the idea of acting, we want to move someone. We want to get someone to collaborate, or maybe someone to work together, or to be looking together, solving the problem. So how did you do that? What was sort of the secret sauce, whether that be a whole organization, or whether that be that one employee or that one client? And then in the kind of you asked me too the same question